welcome to Barley, Hops, and Yarn, the podcast. My name is Jennifer. I'm the face behind Barley, Hops, and Yarn. I knit, I dye yarn, I do a knitting podcast. So thank you all for joining me today. It's been a while since I have been on here and recorded anything. There's been a lot of life stuff. Normally I do the life stuff at the end so that if you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to. But I kind of assume that if you've stuck with me for this long of a break in between, you're curious as my words aren't working. You're curious about where I have been. So I'll just do a quick life update and then we'll go into this pattern recap. I think my last podcast was maybe in May. That sounds right. Could have been June, somewhere in there, beginning of summer. And at that point I had just started a new job. Family member had been re-diagnosed with cancer after having been cancer-free for the past year, 2 years, somewhere in that time frame. So it was looking like things were both looking up but also looking down at the same time, if that makes sense. I am no longer with that job. I actually am pregnant again and I'm due in March. So it was just it ended up not being a great fit, which is totally fine. We can't afford to have 2 kids in daycare at the same time. So decided just to go ahead and leave my job. I'm currently taking time at home before baby comes to just kind of rest, focus on my creative energy, get myself prepared mentally for being a stay-at-home mom of 2 little tiny humans. So I'm both excited and a little bit apprehensive about what is to come. But with all of that, with my family member having cancer and kind of going through, actually, you guys may not have known that, so that might be new to you. Anyway, family member having cancer and just the toll that takes on him and then also the family unit in general, as well as growing a human, which is absolutely exhausting. Thankfully I haven't been too sick this time around, but I've been having a lot of physical pain and a lot of fatigue. So it's, each pregnancy comes with its own challenges. Yeah, so that's my mini life update. Other than that, I mean, things are going decently well. So downside, I can't dye yarn right now because I have some restrictions from the physical pain I've been having. So that's been kind of disappointing because part of why I took this time off between leaving my last job and then birthing a child is so that I can kind of build up some stock for shows for next year, and I can't do that. So it's been a little bit disappointing, but I've been able to focus on knocking out some knitting instead. So we'll jump into the knitting now. I have a finished object. This is my Trans Rights Are Human Rights test knit sweater for Caitlin of Freshwater Pearl Fiber. I always want to say her name backwards. I always want to say Freshwater Fiber Pearl, which doesn't really make sense, but that's what my brain says it is. So if I say it wrong going forward, I apologize. I promise. I'll put a little thing in the thing correcting myself. But anyway, yeah, she is making a pattern called Trans Rights Are Human Rights. I'm going to assume that if you clicked on this video, you are on the same page as all of us, so not even going to worry about any of that. If there are any comments that are choosing to fight about basic human rights, then we'll address those as they come up, if they come up, but we'll see. The test knit, I am calling it, and if you see me look down, it's because I have notes. But I kind of ended up dubbing it as the test knit that runs on vibes, because at first she had a deadline of 8 or 12 weeks or something like that. It took all of us way longer just because life got in the way, which happens. But yeah, I'm really happy with the final outcome. I can't really stand up and show it to you because I'm against the corner of a wall, but I will insert some photos that I took of the finished object so you can see. The pattern is an all over raglan sweater done in worsted weight yarn. And then the design on the front, mine is, as you can see, a little froggy, is a duplicate stitch. I believe she's going to have 5 different motifs. If I have an image of them, which I might, if I have an image of them, I'll insert a picture of those as well. The pattern is meant to be kind of oversized, like comfy, just kind of throw it on and go with it, which definitely has been achieved. It's really easy, even with, like, this is a pattern that I'm not gonna worry at all about wearing once I get full term, and having a belly out there, or after I have the baby, just throwing it on for warmth or anything like that. Definitely does not look frumpy at all, and it's super comfortable. I'm gonna flash y'all for a minute. Have not finished weaving in my ends, because there's a lot of them, and that's a lot of work, and so I'm just kind of tackling it a couple of ends at a time. My only critique on the fit, which is partially a Jennifer issue with just my personal body structure, it's not like actually an issue, is the sleeves are really long. Now I have short arms anyway, so like kind of should have known that going in, but didn't really think about it. And also it's a test knit, so I don't want to modify length or anything like that while I'm critiquing the pattern, for not critiquing, while I'm giving feedback on the pattern. I debated ripping back like, I don't know, 3 inches. Well, I guess really I'd have to rip back like 4 inches and then do the cuff again. You can't see where my hand is. Let's try all this again. I debated ripping back to about like where my watch is, so we'll say between 4 to 5 inches, and then reknitting the cuff. The cuff was only 10-ish rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 rows of a 2x1 ribbing. So it wouldn't have taken me that long to do, but pre-blocking, I was like, I'm good with the length. It's fine because I could just pull my sleeves up and it'll be okay. Post-blocking, I'm kind of not sure. I'm still toying with the idea of going back and pulling the sleeves up a little bit. So my one recommendation to you would be, if you have shorter arms like I do, modify for that as you're knitting the sleeves up, or go down, because she does not, I don't believe she has you go down a needle size or 2 when you're doing the ribbing. So maybe go down a needle size or 2 when you're doing the ribbing, so that when you're pushing the sleeves up, they're like a little bit more snug and they stay up better. All right, we'll get to the other stuff in a little bit. But I mean, overall the test knit went pretty well. The pattern I did fight a little bit at the beginning because I misread or misinterpreted what the pattern said. So the way it was written, I'm just gonna throw some numbers out. The way it was written was like, you have, let's say 100 rounds or something like that, and I don't even remember exactly how it was written, but the way it was written, my brain interpreted it as the amount of rounds you had were the amount of increased rounds. And so when you knit a raglan, you do 1 row increase, 1 row knit, 1 row increase, 1 row knit. So it's like a little bit more of a gradual increase. Well, my brain interpreted that as there are 100 increased rounds. So that means we're doing 200 rounds total. So I got to the point where like, I think I had gotten maybe, we'll say 60%. Excuse me, we'll say 60% of the increases done. And then I kind of went back to Caitlin and was like, hey, this is how I interpreted this. Is this wrong? I think it was based on something one of the other test knitters had said in our group chat. And she was like, yeah, that's wrong. I was like, okay, well, that's great. So I ended up having to rip out the entire yoke of the sweater and reknit it. Thankfully, I had been doing double the work, so it was less work the second time around. And hypothetically, again, if it wasn't a test knit, I could have just like adjusted at that point and kept going forward. It would have been fine. But again, it was a test knit, and I really wanted to make sure that I was doing what Caitlin really needed and actually testing out the pattern instead of just throwing modifications along the way. So yeah, that all in all, that ended up being a good thing because I was able to give that feedback to Caitlin of like, hey, the way this is written didn't really make sense to my brain, and like I interpreted it this way, and she was able to go back and look and be like, okay, yes, I can see why you interpreted that way. Let's work together to rewrite this one section so that it makes sense. Other than that, I mean, everything was pretty smooth sailing. I liked it. I've gotten a ton of positive feedback, responses. Hey, I like your sweater when wearing it out in public. Because I mean, how could you not like a frog sweater? Something wrong with you if you don't like a frog sweater. My only downside is I did go pick up my daughter from daycare while wearing this sweater. And full disclosure, I don't really like kids that much. I like my kid. I like my kid. I like my friends' kids. I don't really like anybody else's kids. And so I'm going into daycare. I have, my daughter's about to turn 2. I have my frog sweater on. I walk into her classroom, and all of a sudden there are just like 6 toddlers slowly walking up towards me, just pointing and going, frog, frog. Because, you know, they're around 2, so their speech is kind of like not that great right now. So just like literally straight from my nightmares, I'm surrounded by children just pointing at me and kind of chanting frog. So maybe don't, if you were like me, don't wear this to go pick up your kid from daycare. All right, on to some specifics about the pattern. I did end up having to increase my needle size to a US size 10, which I'm a bad podcaster and I did not remember to note what millimeter size that is for non-US people, but I'll try to remember to put it in. Sorry, brain stopped working. But yeah, I believe the pattern originally calls for size 8 with a worsted weight yarn. This yarn that I used is Leadingman Fiber Arts in their box office base, which is 100% worsted superwash merino. The charcoal color is called Darkest Hour. The green, the light green is called Beanstalk. You can't really see it that well because I use the charcoal, but it is outlined in kind of a darker green. That's just a Madeline Tosh. I don't even know for a fact that it's worsted. It might have been DK, but that was just scraps I had. And then the pink Caitlin actually sent me because I didn't have any, and that was, I know she said it was Oink Pigments, but I don't remember what their base or the colorway was, but it's whatever their 100% superwash merino base is, and then just look for a light pink and you probably have it. I used, for the charcoal color, I got 6 skeins. I did not write down these specifics, so I am the worst, but I got 6 skeins, and I used pretty much every single inch of that. I might have a couple of yards left over, and by a couple I straight up mean like 2 or 3 yards left over, but for the most part I just wrote that I used my entire stash, which was 1,308 yards. And then for the green, I ended up using about 31 grams of it, which was 72 yards. So I do have 146 yards left in stash. I don't know what I'm going to do with it because I don't generally knit in worsted weight. So I do have it up on my Ravelry as willing to part with if you want it, or if you want to make your own frog sweater, then send me a message. We'll see what we can do. For the gauge, like I said, I did have to increase my needle size to, it went up, I believe, 2 sizes. The gauge is meant to be 17 stitches across for 4 inches. I didn't write down what the row gauge was because ultimately it doesn't matter that much because you'll just You just need, if you need to add length, you need to add length. Like, anyway, after blocking, my gauge was 16 stitches per 4 inches. So it did grow a little bit after I blocked it. The collar, my only real annoyance with the growth is the collar is a lot wider now, and it is a rolled hem collar. Excuse me, again. So it's meant to have 4 to 10 inches of positive ease, and my finished object has sorry, my brain stops working. The size I knit for was meant to have a chest circumference of 60 inches. My finished object ended up having about 63 inches. So I'm right there because my bust is 54 inches. So I had 9 inches. I have 9 inches of positive ease. So I'm right in that, the larger size, obviously. I'm closer to the 10 inches. I think that if I were to knit this again, I'd probably go down a size. But maybe not, because I do like that I can just throw this on real quick and go. I don't know. We'll get to the, if I'm going to knit it again a little bit later on. I started at some point in April. I don't remember the exact date, and I don't think I put it correct on Ravelry, so we could check, but it's probably not there correctly. And I did not finish until the day before Halloween. So it did take me about 6 months to knit this. Granted, I did, like I said, have to rework the entire yoke. I had the yoke pretty much finished based on my understanding of the pattern in May, and then I ended up having like the weekend of Maryland Sheep and Wool. So that first weekend in May, I had it pretty much finished, then realized I had to rip it all out. So I could have had it finished a lot faster, I think, had I not had to start the sweater completely over. But then also over the summer, do you really want to work on a 100% merino sweater and worsted weight when it's hot outside? Not really. And then all together, I spent almost 2 weeks in Seattle. I spent a week and a half in Ireland. I spent a week and a half in Alabama. So like with traveling that I did as well, I didn't bring this with me on those trips because I wanted something more portable. So like I had over 4 weeks of time that I didn't spend knitting on this just from travel alone. And then the duplicate stitch itself took me probably a month. So I think realistically, I probably could have knit this in, we'll say 2 months if I had actually spent the time solely on knitting the sweater and I didn't do the duplicate stitch. With the duplicate stitch, if I like sat down and really focused on it, I probably could have had that done in a couple of weeks as opposed to a month. But I have discovered that I hate duplicate stitch. It is super, super easy to do. It is not hard at all. If you are a beginner and stranded color work or intarsia or anything like that like intimidates you, duplicate stitch is going to be really easy to do. The problem is you have already knit an entire sweater. So you want to be done because you've knit the entire sweater, but you still have to do all of the color work on the front. And it's really tedious because you're literally going stitch by stitch by stitch by stitch. So again, if you are a beginner who is intimidated by other types of color work, this is great. It's going to be easy to do, easy to understand. It'll even probably help you understand like what your stitches look like and everything a little bit more as well. But ultimately, if you are comfortable doing stranded color work, I'd say pick a color work pattern that has stranded color work. For me, personally, I will not do a duplicate stitch pattern again. I will say I don't work with worsted pretty much ever. I generally work with fingering or DK. So going up to a worsted weight yarn and using a size 10 needle ended up, especially as I got to the point where I was like working on my sleeves and everything, ended up really being rough on my hands and my wrists. Now, part of that could be because as I was getting later in the project, I was getting a little bit more pregnant, and I can definitely tell this time around, like, my joints are looser earlier on in pregnancy than they were last time. Who knows? Maybe it's just because I'm pregnant and hormones are weird. But I did not enjoy, by the time I got to the sleeves, I definitely did not enjoy the way knitting on this felt on my wrists physically. That's not an issue with the pattern or the design or anything like that. That's just a me issue with how it fit. Nope, not how it fit. It fits fine. How it knit on my hands, because I'm not used to working with it. All right, great. Now, she does not have a release date as of yet. Unfortunately, for multiple reasons, it's had to keep getting pushed back. If I happen to find out a release date before I post this podcast, I will definitely put it in the description box and all of that. I will also be updating both my personal and my business Instagram with release updates and information as she shares them with me. But unfortunately, as of right now, it is still TBD when the pattern is going to come out. But overall, I mean, it's definitely a beginner-friendly pattern. If I use worsted weight more often or knit with larger size needles more often, then I would definitely knit a second one, just minus the duplicate stitch. I've actually had my dad flat out ask me, will you make me a sweater like this, but without the duplicate stitch? And I just flat out said no. Maybe I will make him one. We'll see. It's just, if I make another one, I'm definitely at least going to wait until I'm not pregnant anymore and see if maybe that makes a difference on how it felt on my wrists, because who knows, it might. And the biggest things, or like techniques, that if you are a beginner and would like to knit this pattern, you need to know or be unafraid of learning: knit front and back, or like knit through the front loop and back loop, knit through the front, back, and front loop, which was actually new to me, but it's super easy. Slip knit, so left leaning decreases, and knitting in the round. There are no sleeves to pick up. You do need to be able to cast on, like, in the middle of a row, but you can YouTube that. You can look that up really, really easily. It's not hard to do. If you can cast on a regular, like cast on just a brand new project, you can cast on in the middle of a row too. But yeah, I mean, all in all, if I had to give this knitting experience a grade, I would give it a solid B+. The only things that bring it down don't have anything to do with the pattern itself. It literally is only because it was hurting my wrists the longer I worked on it. I've learned that I hate duplicate stitch, which again, not a problem with the pattern itself. That's just a me preference that I've learned. And then I guess technically it's the pattern, but really it's not, because like I said, I have short arms. So with the sleeves, that would be that those three things would be the only thing that are lowering it from an A to a B+. That's really all I have for this pattern. I am very excited for it to come out. I'm super happy with my finished object. Like I said, I've gotten a ton of compliments on it, so even like going back to it being oversized, it's not so oversized that it's going to completely swallow you whole unless you knit a size too large. So as long as you're really paying attention to what your chest circumference is and what you want the ease to be, you're gonna be golden. My boyfriend even said to me, like, hey, I'm gonna need to borrow your sweater to wear it to work one day. I was like, okay, sure, because we're similar sizes, so it fits him just fine. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. This is not a super long episode, just because it was a really quick life update and then pattern review. I am not making any plans for what podcasting is going to look like. I do have 2 more episodes planned out that I have not yet recorded. One will be another pattern review, and then one will be going over my stash and kind of my stash goals for 2026. But just with everything going on in my life right now, between being pregnant, family member, really focusing on my own health and rest and mental health and all of that right now, I don't want to put pressures on anything. And as we learned earlier this year, even if I set up like a plan, sometimes life gets in the way, and I don't want to fail to meet anybody's expectations, including my own. So the easiest way right now is to just not put expectations on it. I'm going to record as I best feel like it. That's what best seems fun to me for the time. Ultimately, if my channel grows, that's great, and if it doesn't, that's okay too. But yeah, so all in all, for right now, I have 2 other episodes planned that I still have to record. I have to edit everything, of course, before posting it. And that's all I'm going to commit to right now is these 3 episodes, and I'm not even going to commit to a timeline of when they come out. So if you have rejoined me after these few months of absence, thank you. I appreciate it. If you have decided to tune in to this being the first episode, thank you. I appreciate it. If you're not already subscribed, that's definitely going to be the best way to keep track of when episodes come out, just because, like I said, they're not necessarily going to be consistent. I'm not saying like they're going to come out every Monday, because reality is they're not. So best way to keep up to date with episodes is going to be subscribing to the YouTube channel. I will also, of course, post my Instagram account and my Ravelry down below, so you can keep up with things there as well. But again, thank you for tuning in and watching and checking this out. I hope that when Caitlin does end up being able to release the pattern, that you all support that pattern, because it was a joy to knit. Caitlin is an amazing, wonderful person. Yeah, and trans rights are human rights, and if you don't agree, then why are you here? Why are you watching that? Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and enjoy knitting on whatever it is you're knitting on right now. Bye!